too early for this. Why do I work? Ooh, a package. Huh, wasn't expecting a package because King Goji already showed up. Still waiting on Blue Beast, but I didn't think he was going to be here yet. So, it can't be Gamera because that thing's a myth. Like, that figure just doesn't exist, so. I guess Blue Beast must have came early, but this doesn't look like the big bad toy store box, but let's get it open. Where's my knife? Alright, let's get this bad boy open. Yeah, that's a lot of tape on this thing. There we go. Alright. Let's see what this figure is. Hey guys, welcome to Super Important Reviews. My name's Steve, and oh my god, it's finally here. It's finally here. I can touch this thing just... Oh man. Gamera, Gamera. He is super tough. Flames come out of his butt. He's a little Gamera. Calm down, Steve. Calm down. Whew. In this review, we're going over the SH MonsterArts Gamera 1996 by Bandai and Tamashii Nation. He's from the film Gamera 2, Advent of Legion, or Attack of Legion, or Battles of Legion, like whatever you want to call it. That film is amazing. If you guys haven't seen it, it's pretty much a small premise of the film is after the events of Gamera Guardian of the Universe, this meteor comes to planet Earth, slows down before impact. People think, huh, that's a little weird. What the meteor is a giant insect called Legion that has a bunch of little insects that follow him around that make these giant plants that explode like nuclear projectiles into space so they can pollinate other planets. And of course, since Gamera, being our friendly hero of the film, is on a mission to stop the evil forces that is Legion. And if you guys, again, haven't seen it, it is my favorite giant monster film ever. Even though I really love Godzilla 1954, and there's plenty of other Godzilla movies I really love as well, but for the most part, 54, amazing, and then the rest are either pretty much on par with being as good or dip up and downs here and there. But for Gamera, with the original Showa Gameras, there's a few gems, but for the most part, there's nothing really that extravagant about those films, and really just don't help to compete it with the Godzilla. Then once Gamera Guardian of the Universe came out, that film just kind of elevated Gamera to a new status, and really actually helping him to compete in terms of just how badass this monster could actually be. And then Gamera 2 came out, which just really stepped up the game for Gamera and really just helped to push him over the edge in terms of just the Heisei series for monsters. And now Gamera 3 coming out, like that movie is awesome as well, but this was the tipping point for me and really is what wanted me to get this figure so bad. And this guy just needs to get out of this box. So without further ado, for the packaging, love it. Really like the flame effect that they got going on for the front of the packaging. Really like when you see the action figure inside the packaging. And even has an awesome image of the Gamera toy on the front of it. Looks really nice. For the side of the packaging, again, nice fiery effect. Tells you his name. Really nice grimacing image of Gamera. For the top, just some more kind of smoke effect going on here with the clamshell packaging on the inside. Looks really nice. For the other side, just Gamera's arm kind of bleeding over, and there's his name again, in case you forgot. And then for the back of the packaging, it just shows you a bunch of variant poses that you come in. Shows you what Gamera can do, and sadly, he can't set that up, but we'll solve that problem in a little bit for his light up mana beam. Really nice image of Gamera right there. Bunch of stuff I can't understand. And some legal mumbo jumbo. So let's get him open up out of his cardboard prison. Alright, so now that we have Gamera open up out of his prison, he looks pretty sweet. Overall, I really like the details on him, but there is one major thing that bugs me about this guy, but we'll get to that in a little bit, because first we're going to go over some of the accessories, which he comes with. His plasma fireball effect, which overall looks pretty nice. Really like the coloring that it's got going on with it, other than I kind of wish that it maybe had a little bit more yellows in here. Because as you can see, it's pretty much just orange plastic, and the lighting effect is kind of giving off the orange, which looks really nice, but I would like to see maybe a little bit more on the inside of it, but still a cool effect nonetheless. And then for the bottom of the base, just same thing we got with some of the other releases, just instead of being a different color, it's just the same orange to go along with the fireball effect. But the one thing I don't like about this setup is the plastic stain here, which is made out of this clear plastic, which isn't articulated at all, so the fireball can only be really going in one direction. So that sucks a wee bit, because usually what you get with these things is this normal bendy, I think it's you call it an Act 4 stand. But I really love these things because it lets you put the fireball effect or the Godzilla's atomic breath in different positions, so you can kind of angle it towards the ground, up high if you really want to. But with this, it's just going to be going in one straight direction, so that kind of sucks, and I imagine it's probably just to kind of keep the cost down a bit that they came with this. But preferably, if you have an extra stand, I would probably be going with this one, which actually here, I'll show you guys real quick. Popping this bad boy out. And as you can see, with the other stand, holds it in pretty well. Pretty secure overall. And this is probably going to be the way I'm going to be displaying with it on myself, because I have a few of these extra laying around. So again, really wish I would have came with this to begin with. But one thing that's actually really sweet about this fireball effect and bringing in Gamera, what you need to do is when you're inserting it into Gamera's mouth, you'll see right here there's some grooves. It's kind of hard with the lighting, but this is where his teeth are going to rest, and there's some on the under section here as well. So when you're putting it into his mouth, you just got to make sure that his tongue is laying flat, and you want to get these little end pieces for the fireball effect to be behind the tusk. So you just want to start up a little high, resting inside of his mouth. And it just kind of sits in there, but I really like how it just looks like it's exploding out of his mouth, just like in the film. It's just pouring out, and it's something that's pretty unique for Gamera, because most of the other monsters effects kind of just rest inside of the mouth and you just clench the teeth over top of it. Well, this literally is just like, overall just helps to translate that effect that you've seen from the film. So overall with this effect piece, really love the way it turned out, even though the stand that it came with is not quite as great as what this articulated stand would have been, but it's still a really nice attempt. And overall, still a great accessory piece for Gamera. And next, moving on to his flight mode accessories, which first I'm going to demonstrate how you actually get them onto Gamera. So what you're going to need to do is grab your Gamera figure, and when you're going to be wanting to put in the wings for the arms, what you're going to need to do is pop out his arms. So what you do is just grab really close to the base of the shoulder here, apply a little bit of force just to pull it out a bit. Don't be scared, because when pulling it out, that's actually pretty well secure ball joint in there, so I haven't really worried about snapping that thing off. But you just want to make sure once you get it out, you want to remember which ones it is, which actually, on a side note, in case you forget which arms these actually go in, inside of the little joints here, if I can find it, yep, right here, it tells you which side of the arm that this is going to be going on. So this is the left side, so just in case you randomly forget which one you actually pull off, because it even shows it on the arm here as well. It has the nice little L. So I really love that since they make you have to take the stuff off to put these on, that they included some way to help you remember to get these things back together. And then do the same with the other arm over here. This arm is actually really easy, and I just dropped this little middle piece. Alright, so now once you have these off, you grab your corresponding arm, which also has the letter on the inside of it, which one you need, which is right there for this one being the left side. Then you just pop that bad boy in. Really easy to get on. Grab the other side, and also when you're attaching them, you want to make sure that the claws are facing downward. And you just pop that in. And now you have his wings attached. And then for the legs, the easiest thing that I noticed initially when I was putting this figure together, because the lower section actually is really hard to get off, at least for the leg portion of it. So what I initially did to get this guy off, because you need a little bit more leverage to grab onto it, is I actually took the legs off. Again, when you pop the legs off, has the corresponding letter for which side this goes on. Just put them together. Pop the other leg off. And then what I did was grab right here at the base of the crotch here, and then you just pull outward and wiggle a little bit. Pretty easy to get out. It's just initially it was a little bit forced, and it may seem like you're doing the wrong thing, but this is literally how it's going to pop out, because it has a little clamp section right here where the plastic's expanded, so it hooks into there very nicely. Then you just take your lower jet section, attach it on the Gamera, push it down, and he's completed. Then grabbing his new flight stand, which I know it doesn't seem very impressive, because again, the solid clear piece of plastic here. What I've seen some people complain about is that it sits really low to the ground, so you can't get him really looking like he's soaring over any buildings. It's just kind of not quite as effective as it could be. But the one thing I actually appreciate about this is pretty much Bandai's way of telling me that I don't need this thing to be sitting up, because I know I have a really bad track record of running these things and having Gamera just sit on it, and then something shakes in the room and he just tanks off my shelf and just starts breaking everything, including himself. So I actually really love this being short, because it's just kind of like a foolproof way for me to make sure I don't ever have to reorder this figure. But it's really easy to sit this guy on top. And what you do is right at the bottom here, there's these slight little grooves that sit inside of his thrusters here. So you literally just sit them right on top, and Gamera's good to go. And bring him back in the turntable. He looks actually really nice sitting on there. Gives him this nice overall flight pose, which I really like. One accessory that might have been a little bit nice to add to it, and something you could just pretty much replicate with Cotton, is some way of getting these smokestacks to be actually look like he's like flying away from something, because it kind of just looks like he's just chilling on there. So I really love the accessories overall, and they look really good. Bringing it in for a closer look. Really like the detail that it has going on the wings here, where it even has some extra little folded skin coming on here, and has these nice kind of yellowing bone color for the claws here. Looks really cool. Same with the other arm here. And then for his thrusters on the bottom, pretty plain looking. Maybe I would like to actually have seen them actually paint that inside of this black, because when his legs go in, just literally you wouldn't be seeing any of the green here. So it would have been really nice to maybe add a little bit more color right there, but it still looks pretty sweet. And even got his Buto tail here that tucks in, and literally that's about it for the overall details on that, which is pretty cool. And really like that for the upper part of the section of the shell here, before I get into the full articulation for the other Gamera, is that this actually moves a little bit. So it helps for when you want Gamera's head to be straight up flight pose, that the shell can shift up a little bit to accommodate for that. So again, a lot of thought was really put into this flight mode, and overall, it's a really awesome accessory for it. Probably not the way I'm going to be displaying on my shelf, but it's really great that they included this, and something that's very iconic from the film. And then bringing in for a closer look, head sculpt turned out amazing. Really love his eyes with the bright white paint job and the camo green for the pupils. Turns out really nice and really gives him a nice menacing look. Very piercing. Really like the little crest that he has going along the top of his head here, and just all the little grooves and details that he's got going on there. Also for his mouth, looks really nice as well. Has a nice kind of wrinkle effect that you've seen from the film, and his teeth are this nice kind of yellowing bone color, and even with the tusk here look really sweet as well. A little bit scary on this figure, because this would be the probably easiest part to break on this entire guy. And the only one noticeable blemish on the paint job, at least for me, is right here. You'll see on the side of the mouth there's a little bit of the same coloring that is for the tusk here. So that's the only real sloppy bit I've noticed on this entire guy. Also on the inside of the mouth has this nice fleshy pink color, which is really awesome. And then moving along for the neck, looks really good. Same with the body, which is this is where his little gimmick is for his mana beam, which overall the chest doesn't look that bad. I don't like that it doesn't line up very well without really having to be finicky with this figure. Like, I'm half tempted to just stick some sticky tack in there to raise the chest bit a little bit so that each of these little segments seem flush. Still isn't that bad. Like, it's pretty much the farther away you get, the way better it looks, but just up close you can notice all the little imperfections in the overall setting of the armor. So that's a little bit of a bummer, at least in terms of that. And then for his arms, look really nice. Really love the more Guyver spikes that he has going on his arms here. The same more bone coloring with it actually becoming darker the closer you get to the elbow. It looks really sweet. And then you have his nice webbed Gamera hands. Same again. Really nice bone color for the nails here. And overall, same with the coloring on the Kaiju. Really love this more kind of like darkish green color that he has going on here. And then it's more of an olive for the bottom part of the shell, and then it gets to this really nice dark green on the back of the shell here, which, oh, I just love the details on the back of this guy's shell. Even with the articulation that he has right here, it actually hides pretty nicely overall with the entire shell, because it's majority-wise segmented looking anyway, so it doesn't really conflict with what's the rest of this going on here. But it's just, I love all the little bumps and grooves in the shell, and it just really helps to make this guy look very lifelike, and it's just really sweet attention to detail. And the same for the legs here, which Gamera, especially when putting his feet back on, it's really awkward because the way his feet are angled, it's just looks really odd to me anyways, because I was trying to put them back on initially. I put them on the wrong way, and I'm like, that kind of looks right, but I really like how they look anyways. They're really gigantic on this guy. Actually helps to keep them really have a nice footing on your shelf. So it's really easy, and I'll show you guys on a few when posing them. You can actually keep him fairly upright, and actually I'll just show you right now. It's pretty easy to actually keep this guy upright without having the use of his tail, which is really awesome, and I love that it just gives him even more posability options. So it's something that I don't imagine that they initially thought of when designing this kaiju. It's just kind of like a nice added bonus. I think the feet, kind of a broken record here, but again, really like the paint job that they have with the nails here, and a little bit more of the gloss kind of shows up on his toenails a little bit better than it did on his hands. So that's really cool. Really like the detail that it has here with his nice 5 toes. And then underneath, it even has a little bit more detail. Nothing too extravagant, but it's there. And then for the tail, looks really sweet as well. Very log-ish, but whatever. Even has a nice kind of shellish effect coming along the rest of the tail here. And I love how it's not very even looking. It just really helps to give this figure even more character. So overall for his details, minus the chest here, everything else looks amazing. It's just the way the shell lines up on the bottom here is just not as good as I would have liked it to be. Details are still really nice on it, and the paint job looks pretty good too. It's just, it would have been nice if there was a little bit more evenness to its dispersion. And then for his articulation, his head can look up, down, left about yay far, right about yay far. Has a bit of a wiggle to it. It's really nice. Mouth can move up and down. Actually has a pretty good range of motion there. And also his tongue is articulated as well. So his tongue can move up and down. Really nice. For his arms, have a nice wiggle to it. Move up about yay far, down about yay far, forward and back. Also has a bit of rotation here. Nothing too crazy. Even has a little bit of rotation here at the upper part of the elbow here. But his arms aren't quite as articulated as some of the other kaijus in the line because he's a turtle. I understand. So, but his elbow can bend about that far up, that far down. Nothing too crazy. And then his hand can also move up and down slightly. It's mainly just a lot of wiggle there. Then for his chest, we're actually going to go over that in a second because I actually want to go over this a little bit more in detail. But his legs move outwards about yay far, inwards about yay far. So I can move up and just popped it out of the ball joint. Move up about that far, down about that far, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. There's an okay bend at the knee, nothing too extravagant. A little bit of rotation, again, nothing too extravagant. Feet can rotate all the way around. Has a little bit of a pivot to it. Can move up and down ever so slightly. Then for his tail, move up about yay far, down about that far, and has a nice wiggle to it. And then getting back to his chest, which is probably the other scariest part about this entire figure because each of these little joints that are inside of the shell here are very tiny, which I'll show you once I get these things open. But when you're moving the segments, just be very, very careful and just take your time with moving it. What you want to do is just start pulling it out a little bit. And then you want to get underneath here for the top part of the shell and just start gradually moving it out, maybe slightly adjusting, but because this part starts sliding up and pulls out, and then you just make sure you're watching it when you're moving up to see it when it's going to be resting towards the top. Then same here, start pulling that out ever so slightly. Especially this side is actually pretty stiff still. And then you just gotta make sure if it stops moving, don't try to force it and just keep working with it to get it to move out, because sometimes you have to adjust the arm a little bit to get it to do what you want. Then for this part's actually really easy because you just fold that part up. And then moving down to his lower groin region, you pull this out a little bit, grab this one, pull that down a little bit. For this little segment of the shell, again, just like these big parts where you just make sure you take your time with it and just get it to where you really want it. But these ones actually, I've gotten to loosen them up a little bit. This side's a little bit more stiff, but it's pretty much just pulling the flap down just a little bit just to open it up. And these parts are pretty easy to move out. Just pull that part out. And then you have the mana beam, which to me looks really sweet. Really like the detail that it has going on there, and it overall has the very nice reminiscent pose from the film. Maybe would have liked to have seen with his head, maybe having an extra head sculpt just for him to have the pupilless eyes when he's doing it. But that I totally understand why it didn't come with that. The one major bummer about this is that it's set up because this is actually fairly translucent, which I'm going to actually go grab one of my little lights to show it off, because you can actually get that to light up, and it's pretty easy to get some wires popping out of this guy. But overall, it looks really nice in there. Really like the organic textures that it has going on there. Pretty much the same, more olive paint job that the rest of the shell has going on, but still looks really sweet. Really like the yellow that it has here with a little bit of blacks here and there in it. Overall gives it a really nice glow to it. But it maybe would have been nice to maybe have seen another little effect to go along with it, especially if it actually came with the light up effect built into it. That would have been fantastic. But pretty much all you really got to go with it is just adding the little fireball effect to be shooting out of it. And then if you have the extra Tamashii Nation flame effects swooping around, you can get a little bit more extravagant look for it. So it's kind of a neat little gimmick, but I think there just could have been something a little bit more done with it. And then I'll be right back going to grab my little light set. Alright, so after I got everything set up, got my battery source, wires coming out of the back of his tail here, and then what you do is you turn on the light, and BAM! Got his mana beam, which I think it's really cool that it's pretty easy to set up this guy into being a little custom to make this effect even better. Because the way it was before, it was neat, but a little bit lackluster. So this is something I think this figure, if they were going with this gimmick to begin with, probably should have came with. Doesn't really hurt the figure overall for me anyways, because again, it's probably not going to be the way I'm going to be posing him, so it's not a major hindrance, but it just would have been nice to have maybe seen him come with something like this, even if it upped the price of him a little bit more. Wouldn't really hurt me at all. But I can also see the other end of the spectrum where the higher the price, it kind of hurts this guy's marketability. But if he came with something like this, I think people would just really have been clamoring to get this guy even more. So overall, still a neat idea to come with the mana beam, but I think it should have came with something like this to begin with. So for some quick comparison, here we have Gamera standing next to the Heisty SH MonsterArts Godzilla and Mothra, which he's actually pretty large when standing next to these guys, which is a really big bonus for this figure because I wasn't expecting him to be quite as imposing when next to these guys. And now just Legendary has to buy the rights to Gamera so that we can let them fight. And here's some other Gameras from my collection with the Japanese Bandai Gamera from Gamera Guardian of the Universe and the X Plus Nightmare Gamera from Gamera 3. And here's the NECA's Pacific Rim Otachi. And here's the NECA's Burning Godzilla and Anchorage Attack Gypsy Danger. And here's the Ultra X Ultra Mantega. So overall Gamer here, his articulation is really good. Not quite as great as some of the other kaijus in the SH MonsterArts line, but with him being a turtle in design, wasn't really expecting a crazy amount of posability, but it's still really good for what it is. And the paint job, even with the one minor little imperfection, is still really, really awesome. Really love what they did with the plasma ball effect for Gamera, where it kind of is exploding out of his mouth and makes it really reminiscent of the film. Would have liked to have seen it come with the bendy stand instead of the stationary one that it comes with in the packaging, but it's still a really great accessory for Gamera. And for his flight form, it looks really awesome. Really love the attention to detail. Maybe it would have been nice to maybe seen a little bit of smoke effect coming out of the back of the stand here, but I'll take it. And it doesn't really bother me that the stand sits fairly low to the ground because with the SH MonsterArts building, still looks like he's flying over him pretty nicely, and with it being so close to the ground, just leaves him for less bad things to be happening for him if he falls off the stand. So overall, really love this effect. Maybe it would have been nice to actually seen him have his UFO form that he has in the movies, but that's probably asking for a lot. The only real major complaint I have for this entire figure is his mana beam effect, which, without it having its own built-in light source or an effect piece to go along with it, just kind of makes it lackluster, and even with the shells, they don't line up quite as well as I would like to have been when it's not engaged in this effect. So I really liked the attempt, it just wasn't executed as well as I would have liked it. So in the end, I really do recommend picking up Gamera. He was definitely worth the wait. If you guys are as big of a fan of the Gamera trilogy as I am, then this reptilian would be a great addition to your collection. So what do you guys think? Have you guys seen Gamera 2? What's your favorite kaiju film? Or is Turtle Soup just more your thing? Please let us know in the comments. We'll post some pictures of him on Facebook. You want to click the link in the description below. Please don't be afraid to share this video around. If you like this and want to see more stuff like this, please give us a like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching.